What's going on, my beautiful people? Thank you so much for joining us today. I love the fact the music's still going on. It keeps us hyped up. But big shout out to FE Block for putting these things together, actually having real conversations with real people about how we get to the next level in this Web3 world. Because, hey, we can talk a good talk, but when it push comes to shove, what does it actually look like in practice? So today we're talking about how blockchain gives enterprises a faster, safer tech, and just getting them to the next level, the advantage that we've known, the people that have been here for a while, finally kind of getting to the masses and to the people that we want to use this because they have the money. So really excited to have this conversation. I'm going to go around the room real quick and kind of ask for a little bit of an intro. If y'all can let us know who you are, a quick TLDR on yourself would be phenomenal. Alex, you're at the top of the screen. Let's start off with you.
Cool. Great to see everyone again. I'm Alex. I lead the BD team over at Gradient, and we do distributed inference, distributed reinforcement learning. Anyway, super excited to talk with this group here about enterprise blockchain adoption.
Beautiful. Now I'm about to butcher the second name. Is it Shaskan?
Yeah, Shashank. Hey everyone, I'm Shashank. I've been in security for almost 15 years now. I found my first bug when I was 13 years old in Google, and then when I was 17, I found 30 days in Apple iOS 10.3. And now I'm running my own firm, cybersecurity firm for Web3 called Threat Shields, and that's what we do right now.
Phenomenal. Now, I know we have Sean up here. We're having a little bit of trouble with his camera. Sean, let me see if we can at least hear you.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me. Let me know.
You sound good.
Lovely. Hello, everyone. My name is Sean, and I'm the co-founder of Hyperbridge. We're building decentralized interoperability infrastructure for cross-chain applications, cross-chain intents, and cross-border payments.
Beautiful. And last but absolutely not least, the man, the legend, Mr. Wesley Crook. You are muted, sir.
I am muted. My wife would probably like that.
There you are.
Good morning, everybody. This is Wes Crook, CEO of FP Block. Welcome. Appreciate everybody joining today. Alex, good to see you again. Sean as well. Nice to meet you, Sean. I'm sorry, I just butchered that. Shashank. Looking forward to a good conversation around, what really is important to the industry here. Because if we don't get the enterprise in here, we're not going anywhere quick. And there's Ash. Good morning, Ash. How you doing?
Morning, doing good. Sorry, guys. I joined the Twitter live stream. I didn't realize we had a different
No worries.
I mean, you can watch us over there. We're definitely live on there. But if you want to be part of the cool crowd that gets to be on the camera, this is the spot to be. Ash, why don't you give everybody a quick intro on yourself?
Yeah, name's Ash, founder of Axel, building the best wealth app on earth. That's kind of the vision. Consumer mobile app looks and feels like a Robinhood or even like a Chase Bank, but you have access to stablecoin lending markets, access to tokenized gold, Bitcoin and Bitcoin yield. That's what we're building.
Beautiful, man. And good job over at Denver, by the way. Y'all did real good over there. That was pretty fun. Now let's kind of jump into this thing head first, because a lot of times we're talking about what does it actually look like to make this thing happen in practice, like the title says, but we don't really know what the problems really are. Why don't we start with some misconceptions? If I can just kind of jump in here, because we've seen a lot enterprise spending, like over 20 billion in 2025 alone. But I feel like we're not moving, fast enough quite yet. So what do you guys think are some of the biggest things that people kind of misinterpret in the Web3 space? What are some of those misconceptions that people still have in 2026?
Then it's a scam. the whole web world is a scam, pyramid scheme, evil empire, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, a lot of people still don't understand the value of open ledger and distributed ledger technologies like blockchain. They've all gotten wrapped up in the whole crypto hype, meme coin game that has been going on for the last few years. So I think, as we clear the air, clear the room, as we saw at ETH Denver last week, the real players are still around. All the hype and all the gaming, gamesmanship and, pretending has left the room. So, hopefully we can start getting that air cleared and start getting people understanding what this industry is all about, what this technology is all about. and how it can be applied to better the earth, so to speak.
Yeah,
Better the earth. I love that.
I mean, I feel the same. It's like when you go and talk to people, like when I moved into from Web2 security to Web3 security, and when I talk to people about it, and I get a lot of this, oh, you know what, like it's a scam, or are you rich yet? So it's more about the pricing part, and flipping meme coins to make a lot of money kind of overshadows the tech behind it. And the second thing, which I also, when I got into Web3, what made me feel was the UI and UX. It's like blockchain still feels very complicated for the general public. It's still for a lot of tech savvy people. It looks very tech savvy. When we hide the core blockchain technology behind the screens with it's like a simple smooth UI, I think will be closer to getting more adoption.
Closer to getting more adoption. All right. So when we're talking about these misconceptions, and the goal here seems to always be, let's get more people to use this thing. What's holding them back? Like, talk about misconceptions. Yeah, it's a scam. Yeah, it's not secure. Yeah, it's all of these things that people think it is. Like, anything else kind of holding people back? I mean, I know, talking to you, Ash, like a big part of it was it's too hard. It's too complicated, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's just the education battle, which we deal with every day. Like, even saying the word stablecoin lending it's a mouthful, and like for people to understand that, you should use simpler explanations. Like, Denver was cool because the line that resonated with most folks on education was like, banks take your money, they loan it out, it's a total black box, you don't necessarily have guarantees. What if you could go and lend direct, quote unquote, or like go and pocket that interest yourself? And I'm glossing over a lot of details there, but that resonates more than just jumping into the tech for most folks. The other thing I'll add is like, the tech to automate all of this stuff is also much better. We deal with trusted execution environments. We deal with vaults and a lot of curators below us in the stack that abstract getting in and out of different positions. We sponsor gas for people. We batch transactions. All of that is needed to create a mobile app where it's just swipe up and earn and swipe up and deposit, or swipe up to withdraw. So that's what I'd say. There's like the usual education stuff where we have to be like more obvious and clear with explanations that people understand that relate to their existing financial life. And then there's just the tech, which you now have. It's just about builders putting it all together to abstract away all the complexity.
Something
I
I've
love that.
noticed
Now,
too,
Alex,
kind of along the, oh yeah, sorry. I was just going to kind of add on to
a little
that.
bit. All right, let me give a heads up. There's a little bit of a delay between me speaking and everybody else. So yeah, if you guys hear some dead silence in between, just jump in. It's fine. Talk over me. I don't want to hear my voice anyway. So yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, good to know. I feel like some of the disconnect, especially in the enterprise adoption, I feel has been along the lines of misunderstanding the problem that the enterprise implementation is trying to solve when cross-referencing it with the problems that blockchain solves. Most of the blockchain networks that are the most popular and the most used today are focused on censorship-resistant, transactions. So, no nation state, no, centralized entity, no individual can censor or take down those transactions. And for a lot of the enterprise use cases, that type of functionality isn't necessarily what they're trying to accomplish. And so I feel like over the years, we've seen a lot of pilots where companies are building maybe like internal versions. I mean, all a blockchain is a distributed database that has like, mechanisms for verifying things. And so I think fast forward to today, we're seeing like much more specific implementations from enterprises. So like stablecoin payments, using blockchain payment rails is a very specific use case that solves a very specific problem for businesses. I think a lot of the stuff that like Ash is working on in the world of DeFi, and generally speaking, like enterprise grade, institutional grade DeFi vaults are starting to get a lot more traction, a lot more enterprise institutional money is flowing into there. So I think there was a big gap in kind of the general market understanding of what this tech is solving, but it seems like we're getting to a place now where very specific use cases are taking shape and gaining traction. So that's very exciting.
Yeah,
All right.
I would agree. I would
Leslie.
tie into that what Alex is saying and Ash was saying. But I think one of the bigger issues that we have getting the adoption going is we're still talking about wallets, and we're still talking about custody, and we're still talking about all these various infrastructure layer things that the average user doesn't care about. Like Ash said, all they want to do is swipe up, swipe left, deposit, receive money. They don't care about how the wallet gets connected, how it's custodial. They don't care about what chain they're on or anything like that, gas fees. and things of that nature. Like we're having a conversation with one of our clients right now. They want to be able to fund the gas fees for ETH so their grandma can just go in there and not have to figure out how to go, convert ETH to USDC and all that kind of mess. So I think the biggest challenge I see, for the enterprise or just in general use cases, is simplifying a common infrastructure. So we got to have, it's great to have interoperability between chains, but the public chains have, are their own ecosystems with their unique technologies. And from a enterprise standpoint, those folks want a standard that they can write to and access everything. Much like the internet, much like infrastructure back in the 80s. We got to a point where it's now just one thing. No one thinks about it. So we have to continue to move that ball forward in this space, is to get a common set of rails, a common set of guidelines, standards, best practices, whatever you want to call it, that everybody knows the rules of the game. And, I think that's really holding back enterprises, because I was talking to a CFO or CTO yesterday about all this and why they want, they're trying to figure out how to get on the blockchain, why they want to get on the blockchain, and why their entire organization is, senior leadership is like, hell no, you're not doing that. And it was very interesting. But the biggest problem they're seeing is gas fees. How do you predict what your costs are going to be? Who's on the chain with you? Nefarious actors next to you. The privacy of certain data points that they don't want shared publicly, even though it's like, can we privatize this? No, you can't. It's blockchain's open ledger. Come on. But there's things you can do to privatize data, but not the chain itself. So the exploits and things of that nature. So there's a lot of headwinds still in the way of enterprises coming in. What we're finding and we're seeing is private, people doing private blockchains or consortium blockchains, where it's a group of known entities working together, or adjacent. So we're really seeing a lot of our customers maintaining their core systems and wanting to leverage the blockchain technologies to access the liquidity on these Web3 ecosystems, and just using blockchain for what it's worth, but not being a core foundation of their internal systems. So there's a lot of things playing out, but we're eventually going to get there. Just like everything else in technology, we've gone up the hype curve. Now we're falling out of the sky. We're going to bounce off the bottom, and then it's going to become standard practice. Just follow the Gartner model.
Yeah, it's one of those things, history does not always repeat itself, but it sure rhymes kind of situation. Being around long enough, it's one of those things that, like, I drop half of what it used to be Bitcoin. I'm okay. Like, I haven't touched a single one of my cold storage wallets, all I do is keep adding to it. And I think that really makes a big difference when and you have that conviction, which kind of brings me to the idea of who should be benefiting from this, right? I know that blockchain technology is, the thing that we're all here for. I mean, Web3, that's what it's all about. But everything's changing so fast, right? Like, I think that if I were to ask this same exact question that I'm about to ask you guys, 5 years ago, it would have been completely different. Like, as far as industries that are kind of bringing the most on chain, that are really the deploying blockchain technology, what are they? Who's actually benefiting the most from this? Because I know for a fact that we have some AI people in this call, and this didn't exist a couple of years ago, right? Or at least the access to it didn't exist, because AI has been around. It's older than me. But, here we are finally all talking about it and all jumping on board. So what are the most, successful deployments of the blockchain technology these days?
To what I have seen, like in the cybersecurity industry, because we have been talking to a few banks, what I've seen is like the fintech industry is, it's like moving really hard on that. It's like settlements are faster. It's like it's more transparent, because as Ash also said, it's like if I deposit my money to the bank, if it has been a bad loan or something like that, we have no transparency on that. So it's like even the bank has that much amount, it's like as they say or not. So yeah, I mean, it's like we have seen huge, it's like movements around banks, especially like some of the information are quite public. It's like, for example, JP Morgan, they're doing millions of transactions on the Connexus blockchain, and my understanding of that is why it makes sense is, for example, like 5 years back when we were using Swift transactions, and we are still using that. So it takes 3 to 4 days to settle. It's like an international transaction. So that money is put on hold. If you get instant payments, the money moves around. It's like instantly. And that is economics 101, that to the economy to grow, the money should move around and it should not sit idle. So it should be put to work. So I think, yes, according to my opinion, yeah, it's the fintech industry, the banking industry.
Yeah,
Any
and
other
that makes
takes on
sense.
that?
'Cause, I mean, blockchain, has been traditionally a financial innovation. So it makes sense that those are where the sort of the real enterprises are picking up the tech and implementing it or building their own chains. And building off of that, it's interesting. There was a report from the guys at Stripe saying that they foresee most of the payment rails for, AI powered tools, call them agents, whatever you want to call them, AI mechanisms doing commerce on behalf of companies and individuals will be doing those transactions over, stablecoin rails. So, you asked about AI. It feels like that's where kind of the rubber is meeting the road. It's extremely early days. The guys at Circle, the guys at X402, there's a couple good groups that are kind of supporting that push. But then apart from that, we've seen some interesting use cases of incentivizing data labeling and aggregating data using crypto tokens as like an incentive mechanism. And then, of course, the verifiability of data, whether it's using IPFS or something on chain, to track the provenance and the ownership of that data it's cool. It's sort of the long-term vision of Web3 to include, the internet and data, and maybe eventually people getting paid for their data. That kind of stuff is starting to come to fruition. And so, very early days, though, very early days.
I think one area that we're not even bringing up here, which is part of this whole industry, is gaming. Just the use of games. The ability. We were talking about it earlier today. Fantasy football, fantasy soccer, whatever you want to call it. Any kind of fantasy game where you have community playing, which really is what Web3 kind of built itself around, was community and establishing communities. So, blockchain really plays well using the stable coin or the meme coin or the token or whatever you want to use as a way to incentivize and transfer money around through the gaming platforms. You're not going to see Activision dropping in with their billion-dollar platforms, but people building good fun games that people use, fantasy football, fantasy soccer, fantasy whatever, even the sports betting phases and places as well. Being able to use blockchain and stablecoin and tokens as a mean of payment, as a mean of betting, a mean of value transfer, is very, very useful. And it's out there and it's being done quite heavily and quite regularly. And we don't really talk about that because it's a whole different kind of subset industry out there. But it's tied to the financial rails as well. We're using stablecoin rails, we're using blockchain rails to make payments and drops. It kind of got all lost in this whole airdrop meme coin game. But at the end of the day, there's some really good games out there that and fantasy leagues that you can join. That these are great rails for it. But again, it kind of comes back to DeFi, comes back to financial rails and payment systems. The guys that I'd be nervous is Visa, MasterCard, American Express, because the day of 3% fees are in jeopardy. As we improve the rails for stablecoin. I mean, when I can do cross-border payments and not pay a fee, or pay a very minimal fee, less than 1%, who needs a MasterCard?
It's 2.99% plus 10 cents, of course.
Sure.
Those guys are definitely making money hand over fist, and it's been the case for I don't know how long at this point. And you bring up a great point. We have the ability, like we literally are here with the ability to change that whole game. And it's just a matter of somebody going in and kind of seizing that opportunity and saying, what, we're going to do it better. I'm not saying it's cheap, I'm not saying it's easy, but it definitely needs to happen. Same thing goes for international money transfers. You have your money senders of the world that are really just raking in hand over fist at the expense of people that ultimately can't even afford to be giving up as much as they give up. But again, it's to me a matter of time until all of these things kind of like get sorted out. I guess is the best way that I can say it. And one of the things that I really love to see is I guess the visibility, right, of what's actually happening, allowing people to see that this is a viable option. So when it comes to KPIs and things that these enterprises should be looking at, what are we actually measuring? What matters? What are the stats that actually make a difference and that people should be caring about here?
We can start. I think what's funny is it's so like use case specific. Like we all
Yeah.
probably have very different answers. And funnily enough, the stats aren't even like blockchain related stats. Like what they care about the most is like what does it enable? I do yield stuff. They care about APY, TVL, borrower liquidations, how sustainable
Mhm.
has yield been. That goes for crypto treasury companies. It goes for like startups that are parking their treasury on Axel. It goes for consumers that just downloaded the app. On the on-chain side though, like it kind of baked into those metrics. They care about like, can I go and look at a log of transactions? Can I go and see proof that Axel cannot move my funds to any place that I have not consented to? So like transparent block explorers and ledgers to go and look at this data. A lot of what we have right now that people love is there's no lockups or minimums, which isn't true for all yield sources, but that builds up a lot of confidence. Like if I were to withdraw $1 million, can I just do that on a dime, even if I'm not talking to a human? A lot of the stuff that the tech enables for the use case, but those are just some things to highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's use case specific. I mean, those are some very good reasons for it. The other reasons, security. How fast can you transact? Obviously, if you're a high frequency trading platform or you're any kind of trading house, it's all about the speed. Speed to light. How close can I get to it with my transactions? You can't go over to the Cardano and do it and wait 6 seconds. You gotta have something that's going to move a little quicker than that. So there's so many different metrics. It really depends on the use case that you're trying to achieve. From a financial perspective, it's a lot of the things Ash talked about. It's security, it's immutability, it's how secure is it, how fast can it be recovered from in the case of an outage or what have you. Things there's a whole different multiple layers of KPIs that can be looked at in this space, but it really draws down to what the user is trying to accomplish and what they're trying to achieve in that use case.
I'm like holding back from like speaking, so I don't speak over anybody. This is like the delay is quite fun, let me tell you guys. But we see a lot of things that blockchain as a whole is helping. Like let's take it to the next level. Smart contracts, right? It's automating a lot of repetitive business workflows. There's so much that can essentially make us work less yet still achieve the same end results. And I love that, don't get me wrong, but what I want to see is actually a step further. It's not just getting the same results we've gotten by leveraging blockchain technology. I want to see what else we can do. I want to see how we can further not only the development but the implementation of even DeFi assets that we've been so used to time and time again. And I know Alex has a little bit of a hard stop here. So Alex, let me just go to you, straight to you, so you can get a couple of sentences in here. What do we do as far as like talking about these KPIs when you're talking about improving systems? What should people be looking at, in your opinion, for improved systems that already exist, but how do they actually even think about to take it further, right? Because there are benefits inside of the blockchain tech and DLTs and as a whole that can actually elevate things even further. And I mean, add on the AI piece that you bring would be wonderful as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the first thing, and Wes will love this, I feel like the companies that are building out security related mechanisms, compliance related mechanisms, observability, I think Ash mentioned like monitoring. These are like what's taking the crypto and blockchain tech stack from like sort of like the devs and the builders and the startups to like the large businesses and the large enterprises that want to use this stuff, but they need these added layers of just professional software management, professional financial management. And so we're seeing so many companies pop up literally in the last like 2 years, 1 year, that are just really good at providing compliance mechanisms. I mean, Stripe bought Bridge, I believe, a stablecoin payment company, right? Stablecoin payment companies are not like a novel idea. I think they were just very good at providing like enterprise grade systems in order to implement these types of things for businesses. So that's the first thing. On the AI side, I would say it's really, really way too early to tell kind of like where all things are going with regards to smart contracts. the cool use cases we're seeing that are providing real value are, I mentioned the data labeling, data aggregation, payments for, AI related systems. And then the other one, which is sort of where we're headed, is, compute aggregation. So, using a token to enable like low cost edge GPU aggregation, and then making those GPUs very available. So that's really cool because you're kind of building like a distributed cloud. In our case, we're not really building like a DPIN network. It's more of like the ability to spin up subnets where you can kind of do your own reinforcement learning training run backed by like a smart contract and on-chain payments. So anyway, but even for that, like for large businesses to adopt that technology, like we know that there's table stakes things that have to be done in addition to auditing the code, in addition to being a trustworthy company, that is what's separating out sort of like the sort of B2C companies from the real like B2B and enterprise companies that are using, smart contracts across finance and, web related use cases.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to the bureaucracy of things, I mean, I've seen some hurdles really overcome because of DLTs in blockchain tech. Like, what are, how, I guess is the best way to say it. How does actually, integrating within a blockchain, within a DLT, and cross department friction just dies, right? Because now it's no longer these silos all over the place. And we're kind of not only bringing it all together, but we're making it visible so that people can actually work together. Obviously, I think we're all on the same page when we're talking about these efficiencies, but what are some of the people that benefit the most? Are we talking about internal ops? Or are we talking, kind of going at the consumer facing side of things? Which side of the equation benefits the most from having this kind of integration?
I can
Good question.
go for it, Wesley.
No, I'm having to ponder that for a minute.
I can start. I mean, I think everybody benefits. I'm obviously very biased on who I think benefits the most. I think it's consumers. The reason why is because tokenization and blockchains democratize access to things. It's not just me too. Like a lot of what inspired me to even go all in on yield. Larry Fink from BlackRock had a shareholder letter a year ago, like over a year ago now, that highlights this. He doesn't mention crypto at all. He mentions blockchains and tokenizations, and he has a line that's like, tokenization democratizes access to yield. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a private wealth advisor. You don't have to know people. All that we've done is just take different assets, create a digital representation of it. Historically, if you do that like in the 90s or the 80s or even the 2000s, you don't have like good record keeping, you don't have guarantees, you have all these like double spend problems, whatever it might be. Blockchain solved that. You've just modernized asset ownership and transactions. That means I can, in a single transaction, go and invest in 5 different assets, some that I've never seen before, some that I was never given the option to invest in. The way that people built fintech giants in like the past decade, I'd say, is having to wrangle all the silos. And sadly, those who get the licenses are the ones who win. Like you have to get money transmitter licenses. You have to go and get approval in 100 different states and jurisdictions. If these things are tokenized, yes, there probably is still a legal requirement across the board, but there's no technical barrier for other folks to just try to clone and compete and replicate. And that's how we're hoping to take on a lot of these traditional financial platforms. So that's what I'd say. I think consumers benefit a lot. Of course, the ops side benefits. We talked a lot about cross-border payments and remittances, like companies that are doing international wires or ACH wrangling, like you don't have to deal with any of that shit anymore if payments are instant. But I think consumers are the ones who have historically always been left behind, and this is a technology that stops that from happening.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think consumer plays out well, but I also think that the institutionals play out well. I think one of the things you're seeing is the technology and what we're doing with the technology is outstripping corporate culture and the ability to make those changes. I think AI might help that if it like eliminates all the white collar jobs in the world as they predict, because if you think about traditional hierarchical corporate roles, it was all about how many people you had reporting to you or how much assets under management you had or what other controls you could say that made you, the boss, so to speak. And that dynamic is changing very quickly. And there's a lot of resistance to it because, if you think about a general corporation's hierarchical structure, entry level all the way through CEO, there's a reason the CEO is getting 35 times X the baseline salary because they control the narrative. And with this technology, we're able to strip that out. We're able to automate with AI tools and bring clear vision to what's actually going on within the organization and within the transactions the organization completes. So I think as our culture has to evolve, our humanity has to evolve. I know it's kind of a big heady word thing, thought process there, but it was funny because we were talking about it this morning in our staff meeting. One of my VPs went out with Codex and built this with Claude, this very, very elaborate guardrail system for writing code and reviewing code and testing code and things of this nature for a blockchain. And he woke up after it ran for 36 hours over the weekend. He goes, holy shit, I just built this governance nightmare that it takes 46 requests to get anything done. He goes, I have more code that was written for governance than it was actually executing. And he goes, it reminds me of when I worked at Nafila 15 years ago, just the organizational bloat that I had to deal with to get anything done. And he goes, we've just recreated it with AI. So we have these cultural challenges in front of us that we have to get used to. Hey, I can run a team of 2 and be happy versus and still be an executive in my mind or in the company's mind versus having a team of 1,000 people underneath me that I have to manage and all that politics. So there's a lot of society and social things that have to get extracted from corporations to be actually leveraging this technology in the most efficient way. Now, the way that's going to happen is with consumers are going to vote. If you go back to the Visa MasterCard discussion around 2.99% transactions fees, if you look at it today, a lot of the suppliers, the people you're buying from, they're pushing that to the consumer, making them pay the 2% or 3%. And the consumer's going to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. Do you take a stable coin, or can I just do a transfer like this? So we're going to, those barriers are going to get pushed. And I think we'll have to have, but we're in a boom. We've been in a boom cycle. We're kind of probably going to have a bust cycle here soon with our economies. Out of the ashes of busts, when we have a recession or depression or whatever you want to call it, that technology becomes adopted because all the rules that were in place before get thrown out because it's like, that got us here, so let's start over. You look at the 2008 financial crisis, or derivative trading of mortgage-backed securities. That whole industry changed because of that. Up until that time, it was just before that in the 80s was the bond trading, the scandals with the bond trading and floating of yield. So there's when you have these blow ups, change occurs, and we got to have a blow up so the change will occur.
Now, talking about, you just brought up something really, really good here, Wesley, which means that Shashank's gonna have a field day because talk about security here. Like, this is something to me that's pretty darn important, right? I think that over 60% of cybersecurity professionals as a whole are talking about how blockchain's immutability is like the next level. It's the key to ensuring that data stays tamper proof. But you just brought up the fact that your guy there just built something that kind of sucks, and it's because it's leveraging data that it already knows. That it's like, this is how we operate. Guess what? This is just the norm for us. We're going to go ahead and have all sorts of things that are not efficient because that's what we know. That's the data that's been given to us, and I can see that data is really going to be the pitfall of a lot of these things. Mm-hmm. How do we keep this data safe in comparison to what we've done in the past is really what I'm kind of curious about, Shank, if you can touch on that a little bit, because, legacy infrastructure, I mean, it was always a concern. And I can't tell you how many times my data has been leaked. And I'm sure that goes for everybody. So you have multi-layers here. You have the data that's just okay, but we still need it. But then you have also really private data that we're going to put on chain to become immutable. Yet does that prevent people from acquiring it? Like, how do we level this out?
Yeah, I mean, being in security for a very long time, I'm also a freak about my privacy and everything, and I think everyone in the security industry does, and I'm glad that it's like people are also talking about it. Otherwise, a few years back, people were sending data left and right, or ask anything, your passport number or something like that. People will give it out for free, and then the website gets breached, and then all your data is at loss. And this is where the blockchain has done amazingly well. It's like whatever is there is either public or it should not be there at all. So we have seen products like ZK Passport. People are using ZK proofs to validate things. So for example, it's very well mentioned in one of Vitalik's paper. I don't remember the name. I think it was for soulbound tokens. He wrote a paper, and there he had a different section where he talked about uh, I don't want to give it's like for every oh nice. I don't go and give anyone it's like my data all the time. So if I go to the government, fine. Next time there is another guy who is asking for validation of my data. I don't know how it's getting handled behind that. So what do? I just it's like I give him a signature and validate myself, and that's how the ZK proof has been working on privacy and everything. And the best thing about, as I don't know, it's just 60% or more, but I believe that things when things are immutable, it's hard to tamper with. Blockchain has been hugely accused of having more hacks and financial data loss, but if we look in with a different set of eyes, the fact that we know that there has been a breach is because everything is public. Every time a protocol gets hacked, within 5 minutes the world knows that okay, they have been hacked, or they're performing a scam or something like that. But in the traditional industry, if you even talk about centralized exchanges, Mt. Gox was, I remember, when it was announced that they were hacked. It turned out that they were hacked long back, and they were just it's like playing around with it. So uh, it's like if we make all the data transparent, I don't know how many banks would be insolvent now. So 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 yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's like immutable things, so it cannot be tampered with. And now we have kind of solved the issues of putting sensitive data online by using ZK proof. So the frameworks will evolve. More technologies and more frameworks will solve more and more problems. And some things like something simple as beautiful as sign in with MetaMask. Like, I don't want to give my email addresses and then get tens of it's like marketing emails. I just want to sign in using my MetaMask. So so yeah, I mean, this is really going well. But yes, frameworks needs to evolve, more features needs to come, and it will happen eventually.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I mean, your point about because it's public, it's known instantly. Where you go back, you look at Equifax, Target, Verizon, American Express, American Airlines, Marriott. They had the hacks, and before they became public, it took a whistleblower basically to blow the whistle. Some of them were years in the making before they were came public about it. I mean, I just got a notice yesterday about, oh, we're going to give you. I mean, I have so many free Equifax security screening things for all the hacks that I've had across my credit cards and my bank accounts and my phone numbers and everything. It's like, guys,
1 more year of identity protection.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have 7 of them now. Just from data breaches that occurred over the last 5 years that they're paying for me to have my monitoring my credit. It's like, the good news with the blockchain, just like was stated, we know instantly. So there's this, chicken little thing, the sky's falling, but we know instantly what's going on. Where before we were just, blind to the fact that it was going on and actual damage was being done to the consumer before it was actually brought to the surface that, hey, that happened 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever. So I think it's really good on the security front. I mean, I think it'll become more and more apparent when people feel like their systems are hardened enough to protect against that.
And I think it's like
Yeah, and Chicken Little.
sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, like,
Shashank, please go. Like, I'm just making jokes most of the time, so don't even worry about me.
yeah. So I mean, it's like I've been in Web2 security, and I know for a fact that most of the companies go for like one security audit. That's the max of it. It's like there will be very few ones who are really concerned would go for multiple security audits. Here in it's like in the world of blockchain, you have multiple audits even before the launch. So all the name and shame of it's like blockchain not being secure is kind of because it's visible, and hence it's like you see more number of hacks. But it's quite opposite. It's supposed to be more secure, and eventually it will be.
It's supposed to be more secure. I love how you say that. It's supposed to be more secure. The people are doing it right. I agree with you, Shashank, completely. It's like they're getting those audits, they're getting those things actually verified before bringing it online. I wish that was the case for everyone. That doesn't always happen, unfortunately. But going back to the idea of transparency and confidentiality, does blockchain actually help with that? I guess that's the biggest question that I have. Is there a world where, data on chain can be both transparent and confidential?
I can start. I probably know the least about this compared to everybody else. We have a couple cryptographers on the team that know much more, but I think there's a good balance of verifying permissions and access to things while still like obfuscating what happens inside. Like the example that people throw around for zero knowledge proofs all the time is like, I can prove that you're an American citizen without looking at your passport. And there's a ton of like math and stuff under the hood for that. I think the same can apply for like operating within different networks. Like maybe to use a certain application, I can see you coming in and out of it, but I can't see anything that's happening inside of it, so to speak. And I think that almost becomes like a case by case legislative question, even of like, where is that allowed and where is it not? But I mean, what the blockchains themselves do on their own is like a good source of record keeping and tracking for everything that is needed. I can't imagine, and I think this is why Shashank even mentions like Connexus, right? Like, I can't imagine banks not having some level of permissioning and obfuscation for what's happening. At least for us, and I think for most people, it doesn't matter yet. Privacy isn't the number one thing that they're screaming for. It is different when you think about just like allocating yield to these versus like this is Ash's net worth and this is where it is. So it matters. I don't think we're there yet with apps that kind of combine both of them well, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's that's one of the things that's holding back blockchain from being adopted is, concealing of personal information, HIPAA, compliance with medical, GDPR, those types of things with privacy. There's ways to do it. It's not robust enough yet, I think. You have the 0Ks, but there's ways to do it where you just have a transaction ID to show that a transaction happened, but you've anonymized the data source of that and prove that you have you're a U.S. citizen. But it's still not widely adopted yet, and it's still not fully proven that it's because at the root of blockchain, it's open ledger, open distributed ledger. So it's supposed to see everything that comes into the block, and it has a record of it. So reconciling that in a compliance officer's head or a risk officer's head or a security officer's head, it's going to take some time. So at the end of the day, it'll come. We'll figure it out. It'll probably be a blend of on-chain, off-chain type activities where there's an on-chain transaction, but the actual data set's off-chain in a database that's secure and meets government regulatory requirements for that period of time. So yeah, there's need for it. I think it's holding back the industry a bit because you can't really go to the healthcare industry right now and say, hey, yeah, I can provide you HIPAA compliant data security on a blockchain, where it makes sense. I mean, you can do it, but it doesn't make sense to do it. But I think it's coming. It's coming sooner than later.
I can't wait for the day that it does come. It's one of those things. I think there's so many benefits to DLTs and blockchain tech as a whole that's just not being taken advantage of quite yet. And again, the hesitations for a number of reasons. In your own worlds, guys, like what are some of these challenges that are still holding people back? Like what are some of the things that's preventing them from just pulling the trigger and saying, "Let's go do this"? And Sean, I haven't heard from you in a bit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of regulatory uncertainty still, and I think the way that the financial system has always operated has always been that the regulations protect and build this wall around their business, right? And so they're still looking for ways in which they can build these walls, which is quite ridiculous. Instead of just jumping in with the fray and leveraging these technologies for what they truly enable. But I think what's going to happen eventually is that they're going to realize that like they've wasted too much time trying to like gatekeep Web3 in a way that they are the only ones that can access and leverage that technology. And by then, newer fintechs, neo fintechs as we call them, would have already surpassed them for those who refuse to jump in.
Very well said. Anything from you two?
Yeah, I'm good. I've talked a lot.
I love, dude. Little sidebar, Wes. I freaking love doing streams and spaces with you. Like, guys, like I'll be honest. Like the streams and spaces, a lot of times they're really boring because there's a set of questions that you got to get through. You got to do this thing. The best people that perform well, people actually want to listen to, are the ones that are willing to say, just talk, just have a conversation with me. Do I have a bunch of prep work that some incredible people did in the background? Absolutely. But when push comes to shove, the real conversations, the real answers, the things that actually matter, that's actually going to move the needle and have an impact, is what people come for. So what people actually want to hear, which kind of makes this fun for me. Like I can just basically ask anything. Like, what about interoperability, guys? Does that matter? Are we still living in the world where it's all about bridges? We got a bridge here, bridge there. Does that play a role in the adoption phase of things?
Oh, I mean, Sean's building that, so I'll let him speak in a second. But from my perspective, and I've been on the record multiple times about this, and I know you're doing this to set me up, that, you know, all these ecosystems are going to fade away. In the near term, yes, we need the interoperability bridges, but, you know, 3, 4, 5 years from now, I mean, if we want this industry to progress, it'll be all one infrastructure, whatever it is. There'll be use cases for Solana or Ethereum for specific things, but the general world will run on one infrastructure. So there won't be a need to bridge or whatever, because it'll be all the same infrastructure. So, you know, I know that's, you know, causes some people to pause, but, you know, that's just the fact. I mean, to get everybody into this world and running, well, this becomes a natural part of the business, just like your iPhone's a part of your life, or your Android's a part of your life. It has to be a common framework, a common system. You can't have Ethereum, you can't have Solana, you can't have all these different chains out there. You have to have one single infrastructure that everybody plays to. And we will get there. You know, somebody will build it. It'll be an aha moment out there where somebody does something that is so revolutionary and evolutionary that it, you know, kind of like the Netscape did back in the late 90s. You know, and then it'll be common day, and we won't be talking about this anymore. We'll be talking about something else completely, because infrastructure will be boring again, which that's what it should be. Very boring. It just works. It does what it's supposed to do, and it's immutable, and it's safe, and it's fast, and, you know, you don't have to do 15 different things to make something work. And then we'll be on to the next problem.
Uh, Guys, if you guys are trying to get a job in crypto, like, and trying to do something different, trying to do something special, get the right contracts, be boring. You're so right, Wesley. Like, I haven't told a lot of people about this, but like, I closed a nation state earlier. Well, yesterday we literally signed the paperwork to advise them on like blockchain tech and implementation. And the reason we got that is because we didn't oversell. It's because we said this is supposed to be boring. This is not supposed to be something that's going to be super flashy. The outcome is going to be phenomenal, but the actual, you know, gears behind it all are not that exciting. Nobody wants to know about it. Nobody should have to know about it. They should just know that things work, things are working better, there is transparency, and that you're going to be able to tell your constituents that, hey, we're doing this for you. We're doing this for the people, for the transparency of it all. And yeah, I mean, loves getting those contracts signed, and it's, you know, boring sells, guys. When you're talking to the right people and they get it, it sells. But Sean, I definitely want to hear from you on this one.
Sir, what was the question?
So when it comes to interoperability, what part does that play in the current adoption phase of things? And I just made that up. Maybe that wasn't the question that I asked before because I already forgot, but that's an important thing that I'm kind of curious about.
I think interoperability is super important, especially in today's landscape already, where liquidity is siloed across multiple chains. Whether or not that they will converge is a different question. I think that they will continue to diverge as, you know, different players find regulatory clarity in different jurisdictions. But yeah, there's always going to be this need for an intermediary between all the different networks. What I think is important is that this intermediary itself is decentralized, right, and is not controlled by a few set of people. You know, 3 of 5 multi-sig, you know, whatever it's, you know, 9 of 21 multi-sig. These are like industry standards for cross-chain security today. And we're just working towards a more decentralized, like, worldview for interoperability. And what are the benefits of decentralized interoperability? I think that they just have more scale fundamentally. When things are controlled by central authorities, then that infrastructure can only really scale to the people who trust these authorities. And as we've seen with crypto, as we've seen with blockchains, centralized systems are fundamentally limited in scale, whereas decentralized technologies are adopted all over the world with no permissions and no intermediaries. So I think that that's the same thing that's going to play out in interoperability as well.
Well, then let's talk about what's actually going to move the needle. Let's talk about that next frontier. Like what overall is actually moving the needle? Are we talking about, the tokenization of everything? Are we talking about AI and blockchain working together? Or is it more of the decentralized data ownership? Like what is the thing that's most important to move the needle here?
I will chime in here. So it's like apart from security from past 1 year, I've been working, with AI because we realized that okay, we can automate a lot of things using in security for AI. So what I believe is like in very simple terms, it's like people, we came from phase of writing things on papers, then writing it digitally, then automating things digitally, and then it's like writing an agent to automate your things. So that's next level up. And since it's like crypto is very big for finance, an AI won't it's like open a bank account for you in Standard Chartered or something like
Hmm.
that. It has to use a digital currency, the currency of the internet, which it's like it just pops in and then uses. So AI is gonna go hand to hand with blockchain. Although there has been a lot of talks about okay, AI has taken over the blockchains, showmanship. But then the future is it's like they are going to go hand in hand, and these RWAs and everything. Yes, they are all making sense, but one thing would be it's like a part of it would be it's like AI, and part of it making trades, making maybe even writing smart contracts on behalf of you to execute a contract or something like that. So I think that's the future. AI in hand to hand with and with blockchain.
Mhm.
AI and blockchain. I love it. What about on your side of things, Wesley?
Um, what's the question again? Just a reframe.
How are you taking over the space? How are you taking it at blockchain to the next level and you're going to be the king of it all?
Oh, basically building applications that people actually want to use. First and foremost, I mean, that's been the biggest problem in this space for as long as I've been around it. Is we were an upside down ecosystem where the chain was dictating what was getting built and then bribing the customer to come play the game or whatever they didn't really want to play. But I think for us, it's building, architecting and building software that's scalable and secure, that gives the user the confidence and the peace of mind that it's going to be simple to use and it's going to be of a need that they need. Um,
Hmm.
you know, we see so many people building things that have no market fit, no idea of why they did it. Just, oh well, the foundation gave me $50,000, so I went and did it. So you know we're really focused on as a core as an organization to build software that users want and users can use, and make it as simple as possible for them to use it. There's no point in building something that is cumbersome or you know not me solving a problem that people don't need. I mean, I'm an engineering organization. I have this conversation all the time with my engineers. Oh, here's a problem we need to go solve. I said, who are we solving it for? One person, 10 people, or 10 million people, or 100 million people? I want to hear about the 100 million people problem solves that we're going to do, not the one or two. But I think, with the AI agents that we're building, it's interesting that the consulting business, the engineering services business that I'm in, professional services, is under threat. I mean, it's under a real threat today, not because AI is better than an engineer, but because of the hype and the noise. What I'm finding is, I just put together a board deck. I have a board presentation to the board of directors next week, and I used AI to help me correlate the data. Well, guess what? It took me twice as long to do it using AI than I could just do it by myself because I had to argue with AI that the data sets that they were providing me were not the right information. and if you take somebody that doesn't understand their numbers or something, they could be in a world of hurt real quick. So there's a lot of data cleansing and structuring of data that AI can pull. Like I talked about earlier, using the guardrails, it made something more complex than the core system itself for governing it. So I think AI is in the hands of a very good engineer. We will see huge productivity gains. We will see a lot of things. Unfortunately, we have a lot of bad developers in the world that are going to lose their jobs because they just don't know how to write good code. They're stuck in some corporate, cave writing, TypeScript or, JavaScript for a living. And that's just the end of them. But, but at the end of the day, people that understand how to architect, build secure systems, write software the right way, architect the right way, build infrastructure the right way will only accelerate what's going on. Now, the challenge is for people like us, it completely changes my revenue model. How do I make a living? Because it's, usually it's, brain versus dollar, so how much time do I bill is how much I get paid. I was actually reading a very interesting article this morning about AWS and their consulting organization and how they have been, they represent $12 billion to the Amazon cloud business, and how they're having to completely redo their entire consulting organization because customers are now demanding lower price, better outcomes because AI is being used in the development of the software or whatever they're doing. It was even more interesting. The head of McKinsey, the president of McKinsey said, "Oh, we have a digital workforce of 2,500." He's talking about 2,500 AI bots or engines that they're using within McKinsey to do the work that they were doing with consultants before. So all of a sudden we're starting to control, think of our workforce as digital agents versus actual human beings. So there's a lot of things going on out here that we still have a lot of fiction. We still have fact that's underneath. But at the end of the day, we are in a really scary but really fun period of time in technology because as we move toward the next hyper shift of technology or paradigm shift of technology.
Yeah, I mean, I think it boils down to the fact that people, are loving this whole anybody can create an app. And the truth of the matter is that the best thing about AI is that anybody can create an app. And the worst thing about it is that anyone can create an app. So,
what's happening is software is becoming disposable. Think about it. Look at all these SaaS companies. They're having a freaking fit. I mean, JB, who's my CMO, we have literally gone out. He's gone out literally with, working with Evan over at Genzio. We've built a CRM system that's going to rival a HubSpot or a Salesforce specific to what we want. And they've done it in like less than a month. 2 guys. Why do I want to go pay Salesforce thousands of dollars a month or HubSpot thousands of dollars a month to lease their systems when I can just build my own system using AI in a month? All you have to really know is understand the workflow and what you want to have accomplished, and AI will generate it. Now you got to do some testing and things like that. But at the end of the day, you can get a system up and running to do that. So what's going to happen is software is going to become disposable.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I need this. It doesn't need to be flashy. I need this happen. Go, clean up my email box. Go turn on my lights in my house. Do whatever. I can just let AI go spin it up and do the code and spit it out and throw it into production real quick. And when it's done, throw it away. I don't need to pay for it.
No, that's absolutely true. And I think
it's going to be interesting.
architects,
I would not want to be a SaaS
architects are going to
company.
benefit. Yeah. Just architects, man, like the people that actually understand what's behind the code itself, the people that are actually structuring things, those are the ones going to benefit the most. So a lot of people are like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs. AI is absolutely going to take a lot of jobs, but it doesn't have to take yours. If you just rise to the top and you realize that, hey, it's not about what I can do. It's about the knowledge base that I have and how I can actually put it all together and understand how systems work. Like from the beginning, I don't know how long I've been saying this, like you don't necessarily need the best programmer. You need a really good architect because anybody can program at the end of the day. You need somebody that can actually see the bigger picture and say, all right, where are we actually taking this? And this is what I've always been amazed by the work that you guys have been putting together at the block is like, you're not looking at this one-time thing. You're looking at the whole spectrum of a product and say, all right, that all work together.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, software is cheap. Software is free now. I mean, it's actually coding's free. Coding's cheap. It's this, building software products is expensive because you have to have the knowledge. They have to have the human knowledge because AI can't do that yet. It doesn't understand how to do that yet. It has to take the prompt from the human still. Now it's learning very quickly. It's getting
Sure.
scary every time a new language model comes out. But at the end of the day, it's really interesting to see how things are progressing in this space. I mean, it's almost like the typewriter. I mean, when I first came out of school in the 80s, you know, there was like literally floors of typewriter people that would sit there and just type memos all day. And then all of a sudden, you know, I could show up with this thing called the personal computer with a printer over here tied to a Novell network. And it's like, you mean I could sit in my office and write my own thing on WordPerfect and print it over there? Yeah. I don't have to send it down to Betty in the typing pool and wait for her to kick it back to me. Yeah. Well, guess what? Betty got that whole floor got wiped out because of the personal computer. We're going through the same process, but guess what?
Absolutely.
Betty found another job doing something else. So I hope, but you know, at the end of the day, that's the paradigm shift we're going through. And it's
You're
not
absolutely
comfortable.
right.
It's uncomfortable, but it's what it is.
It will be
And I
all
think
about
the best.
people with domain
Go ahead,
knowledge.
Shank.
Yeah, people with domain knowledge, like someone with a particular domain knowledge and knows how to use AI. That's where they're gonna shine. And it's not about AI taking jobs. It's AI taking jobs of people who are not leveraging AI to do their jobs. So that would be the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need somebody to plug numbers into a spreadsheet anymore. I can have AI do it, you know?
Bingo. Yeah, I think the best visual representation of that, Wes, that you kind of mentioned, is actually architects, and how there would be floors of literally tables with huge sheets of paper, and everybody's doing everything by hand, and how CAD revolutionized that industry, and how there weren't floors of this thing anymore. It was just a handful of people on their computers, a lot of times at home. So it's that we're definitely seeing a big change. There's definitely a big shift that's taking place, and honestly, I'm just excited to be part of it, man. There's no better times to live than today. I know people complain about, oh, life used to be so much better. No, guys, life did not used to be better. People are dying left and right. There were so many issues happening that aren't happening these days. So as maybe some people might have it worse, but as a whole, as a society, we are way better off than we used to be. And it's an exciting time to see the development of all this stuff that's coming down the pipeline. Like the fact that I can be, a programmer, during my morning hours, and be a CEO during the afternoon, like that would never be able to happen back in the day. So if you're hungry, if you're willing to step out of your comfort zone, try new things, and be part of this emerging technology, promise you, you're going to have a great time. But just realize we're actually at overtime. Sean, do me a favor. Where can people find you as far as socials, and keep staying connected with Hyperbridge is up to?
For sure. Just find me on X at Sean Lanlege, and for Hyperbridge at Hyperbridge as well.
Beautiful. Shashank, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on my Twitter handle, Cyberboy India, and it's like on Twitter we have our company profiles at Cred Shields. So yes.
Beautiful. All right, Wes, I know you don't have a cool handle like crypto. What is it? Crypto Boy?
Oh, it's Cyberboy. It was
Cyberboy. You don't have Cyberboy India, but where can people find you?
I started, as I said, I started hacking very early. Like when I was 13, I found bugs in Google. So my friends gave me that name, and I kept it.
Own it, man. Own it. No, don't let anybody make fun of it. Like, I got it early and I'm still here. That's all that matters. Like me holding on to my 20-year-old phone number from high school.
Yep. Hey, bottom line is, I'm keeping with the boring theme. It's at Wes Crook is at my Twitter. At Wes Crook is my Telegram. www.fpblock.com is our website for the company. You reach out, LinkedIn. We have our company pages on all those socials. Genzio, you guys make sure it's all getting pushed out there. So appreciate you hosting us today and having us. And if you need anything with engineering services, please reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Wes. This has been a phenomenal conversation. Shout out to JB in the background, actually getting things done. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. And hopefully we get some good clips out of this, and spread the love of this incredible knowledge y'all possess.